Welcome to the podcast, Jamie. I'm so excited to finally have you on. I feel like we've been talking about you coming on the podcast for, it feels like a really long time. So I'm really happy that we're finally doing this.
I know, me too. It has been a while. And we've talked so much that it's kind of surprising that it's just now happening.
I
So I'm
know.
excited to be on.
Yeah. And 2023 is a good year. So I think this is a good year to be on the podcast. So before we dive into your story and just like about your amazing business and the cool things that you've done, do you want to just tell everyone a little bit about yourself and your business, like what you sell?
Yeah, so my name's Jamie Taylor, and I started Confetti Party Box back in 2016. And it's been a crazy ride ever since. My background was in interior design and marketing, and I had just always had this, I guess, like passion to want to start my own business. And I worked at a local chamber of commerce. And that was really what it was like being around other entrepreneurs and seeing like how they started their business. And it really just kind of lit my fire to want to do that for myself. It definitely like took a few years to muster up the courage to finally decide to do it. But then in 2016, just kind of got the opportunity, figured it out, and started Confetti Party Box. And we put together, is this the part where you can cut this stuff out? I'm like, how into this do we get? How far back do we go?
You're good.
So as I'm sure we'll talk about today, we'll talk about like pivoting. And I think that's one of the things that you and I've like talked about is like, I feel like I'm the master pivoter. So when we started out, we were doing more like Instagrammable party boxes. And so think like plates, cups, napkins, everything you would need for like a really cute party at your house. And that did decent, but what really took off for us was our balloon installations. And we just really rode that wave. I think it was partially luck and right timing. Like it was kind of before anybody was really doing that, like where we are. And it's kind of more of those organic balloon installations that we're now all familiar with. But at that time, nobody else was really doing that. So
Hmm.
I just happened to like hit it at the right time. And it was really the first person in our area to even start doing that. And that just like took off. And I just kind of like have ridden that wave for as long as I could. And it's been a ton of fun. But my heart always kind of lied with wanting, the whole point was to start an e-commerce business. And so we've continued to do the party boxes. Well, come 2019, 2020, we'll all remember the big day and big thing that happened that year. But that, event came to a stop and we really had to kind of like reevaluate our business. And so we shifted during that time to celebratory party boxes and gift boxes. And then that just went crazy with everybody working from home because of COVID. And so we've been fine tuning like our processes. So now the confetti party box that you see offers pre-curated gift boxes and party boxes that we ship across the United States.
Nice. That was a very nice introduction. So thank you. I feel like I want to like unpack so much of what you said because I love too that you talked about just like being able to pivot your business and also that. And I think the balloons thing, I didn't actually know that you were like one of the first people to do that. And for anyone listening, I use Jamie's balloons in one of my brand photo shoots. So Jamie is also a Seattle area-ish brand, and my brand photographer lives in a place called Tacoma, Washington, which is like a little bit south of Seattle. And I think it was like my third brand photo shoot I did with her. We did a like really fun, I had seen a picture. I don't know whose picture it was. It was some lady who's like an influencer. Maybe you know who it is. Someone who's an influencer in Seattle, and like I think she has a book or something, and she had this like beautiful photo of her with your balloons in the background, and I want to say she was like holding a wine glass or something like that, and I was like, oh my god. I messaged the photographer and I was like, I need this, whatever this is, I want it. She was like, okay, cool. Like, yeah. So if you see any of my pictures with balloons in the background, those are Jamie's beautiful work, which is kind of funny. And then I think that was before I started working with you. I don't remember when we started working together. I feel like it's been a while, but yeah,
I think that was like how we met, was that photo shoot, and then started following you, and then it just like one thing led to another. And I think it was when I found out, I was like, oh, this girl's had um a box business and an e-commerce company, and that was what like really led me to you, because I think it just in the area that I'm at, I'm one of the only people that one has really an e-commerce company, but then also has a gift box company. And so it was like, oh my gosh, I need to like pick this girl's brain and give me like all the knowledge that you have, which is what really kind of like led me to you.
Yeah, I love that so much. Yeah, I love that. And honestly, that photo shoot was so fun. And I think I still have pictures that I love of like my son with the balloon, like there's like pictures of him with like a balloon on his head. And they're just like, it's so cute. I love it. So yeah, let's dive into it. So talk through, so you have the balloon company, you have the confetti box, like party boxes. Let's kind of like move back to the beginning again. So your background, you said, was in interior design and marketing.
Mhm.
What, so I know that COVID, you said, played a part in this, but like talk about the balloons. Like what on earth made you start? Because I feel like no one is like, I want to build a balloon installation business. Not that it's not amazing, because it is. And honestly,
Yeah.
balloon installations, what they do to photos and events and parties is like, it is unreal. It creates an experience and it creates a really beautiful backdrop for photos. So it's in like a branding opportunity. So balloon installations are amazing, but like how did you get into that? I feel like we need to hear the story of this. It'll be a good one.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna say same. I don't think that I ever set out to be like, I'm gonna be a balloon artist. Like that wasn't I wanted, so my background is in interior design and I love event design. And so that was really the area that we were going into, was more event design. And I started out with a partner, and she was going to do a little bit more of the event planning side. And so we started to do that. Well, I did a balloon garland for my niece's graduation party. So we planned that. I did a balloon garland for her graduation party and posted it. And then, like, almost immediately, somebody was like, hey, how much would you charge to come do that? And I was like, I have no idea, but let me figure it out. So that was my first paid balloon installation. And it was really tough because I think the biggest learning curve, as many people know, and especially when you get in with like products, sometimes it's not the cost of the product. You undervalue your time and your design.
Mm-hmm.
And so my first paid job was very underpaid, because you're really like, oh, well, it doesn't cost that much to get the balloons, but I wasn't valuing my time and my design. But that was really kind of how it went. And then from there, it just literally took off. It was like every time I did a balloon install and posted it, people started asking me to do that. And I got involved in some photo shoots. And a lot in the beginning, I didn't turn anything down. So it was like I did as many collabs as I possibly could do.
Mm-hmm.
And every event that I went to got me more events. And then it just kind of grew from there. And so it's funny because, yes, I never set out to do a balloon installation, but I think what drew me to the balloons was, there was a few people. I feel like what I wanted to set myself apart was, there's some really amazing balloon artists out there. Geronimo Balloons, who doesn't do that anymore. I think she's just Geronimo. But she was one of the like pioneers of this type of like scale and balloon installations. And that was who I really got inspiration from, was a large scale balloon installation. So we started doing a lot of corporate installations and events. And for me, I could get really creative when you can get something on like a massive scale, because now you're talking design. And that's like what fuels me, is being able to design anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was like really what pulled me to doing that. So yeah, honestly, it's kind of crazy because I literally am like, I have no idea. And I used to listen to podcasts when I was starting my business. This is what was really funny. I would listen to podcasts, people like, I don't know, it just like happened. And I was like, what do you mean it just happened? Like, I don't even understand what that means. And then when the
Yeah.
whole balloon thing happened, I'm like, oh, that's what you mean.
Yeah. That's
You
so
know?
awesome. I mean, that's so cool though, because so many people that start businesses, like it's not so easy. They have to like I'm not saying that it's not been easy for you, because it's hard for any business owner to like have a business, but I do think so many people that start a business, it's like they have to figure out, oh, how do I get a customer? How do I do a website? Like, how do I promote myself? How do I get visibility? And your product and service like basically just sold itself. All you had to do is post, and then other people, when you have a product, and this is like, so I'm going to go on a tangent here, so I'm going to stop myself, but like I talk about this in my business book I'm writing, is like the whole, when you create a customer experience for people that is so beautiful that they have to literally whip out their phone and take a video and post it on Instagram, like that right there is your gold. And that's where so many brands don't utilize the power of like beautiful visual branding and like experience. And I think that's clearly what you did right from day one. Cause I also think like you could have also made balloon installations that looked looked ugly or tacky. Like think of like traditional like balloons from I don't know, the 80s, like bright, like mustard yellow and like McDonald's red and bright blue. But now it's like, oh, we're going to have rose gold balloons and beiges, and like you're going to have cool colors that work together. And like you obviously did that really well because you have a background in marketing, interior design, you have a good eye for detail and all that. So I feel like, you know, even though it was maybe easier, like you still did it in the right way that a lot of people wouldn't have done, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that that is what helped with the balloons was my design background and just colors and what to put together and helping people, because we would get approached with those types of color combinations and I would have to be like, no, like that's not going to look the best, but here's what we could do. And usually it's like adding like a blending color, like how can we blend these together? But we have had a few, and it's kind of coaching people like, okay, you came to me because you liked what we did here. Like, let me help make sure that like what we do for you, like goes to standard. And one of the biggest things, I think one of my, I guess the values in anything that I do, but one of my balloon installations was like, no matter the size of the installation, I always wanted to leave it feeling like good about how it looks. And even if I need to do a little bit more just to make it look even better, like that was one of my goals, was because I never wanted to leave an installation feeling like I didn't like that or I didn't love that and I should have done this. And so I feel like that also was something that for me like set me apart, because I just wanted to make sure that I loved it just as much as the client loved it.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think someone who is really creative and like cares about the experience and how things, because obviously like I know your box business really well, and I know how you curate things and your beautiful packet, like, so you definitely are on point with all that. So yeah, that totally makes sense. Okay, so you started the balloon business almost like accidental entrepreneur, sort of, but like not really. I think you seem like if you were already listening to podcasts about starting businesses, like if it was probably in your head, it was just like, how do I kind of get started, or like, what's the right idea or something? What happened next? So it's COVID, you're doing balloons or you're not doing balloons now. Like walk us through that time period, that lovely time period.
So it's COVID and we're still doing boxes, but most of what we were doing was balloon installations. And we were actually talking about cutting the boxes come June of 2020, because so much of our time was spent doing balloon installations. And it was, we were like, where do we focus our time? So that was kind of the conversation. And then March of 2020 came and everything came to a screeching halt. And that was when myself and like my team, we got together and we were like, okay, well, there's no events, there's no installations, but we do have this online store. How do we pivot and what can we offer to kind of keep things going? And so we had come up with a few ideas, but one of the things we always had on our website with our box company was the custom box option. And we got an email from this lady whose coworker was having a baby and they no longer could get together to do the baby shower together. And so she was like, hey, could you guys put together a party box that you can send to all of my coworkers so we can all get on virtual and celebrate? So we were like, of course. So we ended up putting a box together, send it out to her. And that was when virtual party boxes were kind of born. And we added that to our website. And I think I've told you, and I've talked about this before, but I was like, I found and saw the power of SEO. We were the only company doing virtual party boxes. So we were number one on Google. And it was like the floodgates opened. We had so many emails and requests coming in from individuals and businesses trying to figure out a way to continue their like galas and fundraisers and or just getting together with their coworkers and or just celebrating a birthday. And so we started doing party boxes from that. And during that time, we were doing graduation boxes. So June rolls around, we started doing graduation boxes, and that caught the eye of the New York Times, and we got featured in that in June. So that was honestly, it was a godsend because I mean, here it is, so many businesses, like we were blessed, I feel like during COVID, to have all of these things happen because that is really what kept us alive during that time. So as time has kind of come on and as the market has changed, we started changing. We do virtual party boxes, and we still do for a lot of companies. We just sent one out for Spotify. They were doing a launch party for
Oh my
their
God. Wow.
it was really cool. So they emailed us and they wanted to do party boxes
Amazing.
for the launch of a product that they did and just wanted to send it to their employees for like a job well done.
Morale. Yeah.
And
Oh,
so,
amazing.
yeah,
Love
it was
that.
really cool. So we did that. And then, but now we've kind of switched a little bit more towards gift boxes with like a celebratory flair. So we do gift boxes and party boxes.
Mhm.
Uh, and so still trying to find like our footing and what that is. But we've just been listening to the market and just trying to go with what it is that people want, which I feel like is one of the hardest things to do is listen to what they want and be
Mhm.
okay with being able to shift and pivot. But now we're really ready to be like, okay, this is what we offer. And this is the direction that we're going in. So that has been kind of the goal for this year moving forward is really kind of honing in like what is our brand, who's our brand, and then just increasing our marketing and outreach efforts.
Right. Yeah, and it really is hard to like when you're doing things, especially if like things are flowing, because it seems like things are flowing for you like quite organically,
Yeah.
especially in the beginning, like with the balloons, you're just kind of because your product and service was great, you're just able to get like referrals and things like that. And then you started doing the gift boxes and because of COVID, like people were at home and so companies needed those like virtual party boxes and the New York Times article, I mean, I feel like you just glossed over that, but I mean that in itself is fucking amazing. And like I'm sure people listening are like, wait, what? How did you get featured in New York Times? And like, did that do anything for your business? Do you feel like you got a lot of traffic? Do you feel like it still helps your, because I know from an SEO perspective, I'm like, oh my God, you have a backlink from New York Times. That is like SEO in Google gold, because if your brand is featured on websites that get a lot of traffic and a lot of traction and your website is on there, it's like it's like telling Google like, oh my gosh, send confetti party box to everyone because this is like an authority business. So this is a really, for anyone listening, like this is a really big deal for your search engine presence, just FYI. So getting featured in New York Times is like kind of a big deal from a search engine perspective, also like a credibility perspective. And yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Yes, I definitely think because a lot of our business that was coming in was coming from the East Coast. And so, as you stated earlier, like we're out of Seattle, Washington, so we're on the West Coast. And so I think it definitely helped push a ton of um, traffic to our website.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, that you and I don't know, maybe we can like dive into that in like a little bit, but that a lot of the stuff that has happened for me has been very organic. And I didn't really work to get the New York Times, which I'm sure people are like, how did you? And again, it was just like right timing. I was offering like a feature or a product that hit the market when it was needed. And so
Relatable and relevant. Like relevancy is I just want to interrupt for a sec because like relevancy is everything when it comes to PR and media. Like if you have something that's super relevant for right now, that is your gold. And like, you know, we don't want to discredit the fact that like you've built this awesome business and the New York Times wanted to feature you, but it's also like your stuff was relevant and that's how those things happen. It's like relevant, you know, people that are relatable, relevancy. So, okay, keep going. I just wanted to say that because that's like such an important thing.
Yeah. And so I think now, in the last 6 months to a year, which we've talked about, is really honing in on our marketing. And instead of just like, oh, this is great that all this stuff comes to me, but that's not going to be how it is forever. Like we really had to, in this last 6 months, really hone in on what is our marketing plan? How do we get more features in the New York Times, and what is the best marketing approach for our business? So going back to talking about the balloons, to me, the balloons and the boxes are very different in how you market them. And honestly, to me, the balloons were easy because I could go do a balloon installation and easily get one from somebody that was there, or somebody takes a photo of it. So it was like you got it in both ways, where the boxes are just very different in how you market them. And so it's been hard to figure out like what is the best approach, and how do you do that. But looking back at the New York Times, I'm like, okay, we need to get more of those. How do we get more features? How do we get into gift guides? So that's been the last 6-7 months, was really honing in on what is the area and the direction that we're going to go with marketing and getting more people to know about it. Because I feel like, to me, what makes us different, and we've talked about this, and I keep saying that throughout this whole thing, like we've talked about this before, but when I was building the party box business and this gift box company, what I really wanted was it to, and you'll see it on our website, if you go there, it says, put the yay in their day. Like the idea is to like uplift and make somebody feel good. I feel there's a ton of really great gift box companies out there that I love and admire. What I really wanted was ours to be happy and bright and uplifting, and a little bit more celebratory, whether you are celebrating something exciting or maybe you're having a hard time and somebody's just trying to put a smile on your face. That is where I feel like we are a little bit different than everybody else. And it's trying to kind of like get that message about that out there and how we're differentiating ourselves from everybody else.
Yeah. And I think with gift box companies too, like I know I've ordered from just like a variety of people over the years. And I think some are like really good, some are not like so great. But I do think with the gift box company, like always really you have to like figure out who is my ideal customer, because there's so many different occasions where people buy gifts. Like, is it a gift for like a corporate, like a Spotify? Is it someone like who hosts business coaching and masterminds and they need to buy 20 gift boxes? Is it someone who's hosting an in-person retreat and they want gift boxes? Or is it just like, hey, I need a really cool gift for like my best friend's birthday, you know? So I feel like all those situations are like a totally different person, like typing shit into Google, because as you know, like we just talked about, you have to know what your people are searching for and you have to optimize your website. So I know the SEO is like a whole nother podcast episode here, but those things are really important to know for people who are listening, is like, you have to know your people. You have to know who's buying from you, and you have to understand what makes you different than competitors. So yeah. And I'm trying to think of like the different gift box companies I've ordered from, and there are a lot. I mean, and a lot of them look similar. Like I think people jump on the bandwagon of like, oh, I'm gonna copy Box Fox and everything is gonna look exactly like Box Fox. And I don't know. Anyway, keep going.
I know. I've been trying to not. I love Box Fox. I think what they do is amazing. Like their marketing and branding is like so simple, but they do it so well. It's very refined, and it is hard to not want to like look at that and say and try to mimic. And so it's funny, like lately I've been like, I'm not even looking at what other people are doing, because the moment you continue to do that, because what's crazy is when I started this business, I didn't know of Box Fox. I didn't know of any of these other gift box companies that are out there. And now I can like rattle off like 20 other ones. And so it's funny because I'm like, okay, think back of when you didn't know of these companies. Like there's so many people that don't know that this type of a service exists or is even an option. And so to me, I know they always say like, know what your competitor's doing. And I think it's maybe great to somewhat have a pulse on it to some degree. But lately I've been like, nope, I want to just like stay in my own lane and not worry about what other people are doing, because I feel like you can get into that comparison game real quick.
Mhm.
Especially when you go, like, I think Box Fox has been in business since like 2014 or even earlier. And
Okay.
there's just so many comparisons that you can do. And right, like how they got started or how another business got started compared to you, and funding and all of those kinds of things. Like I finally have decided like I'm done. I'm not comparing to what other people are doing anymore. So
Yeah. And that's good too. I think I totally agree with you. I do the same thing with like, I know that I'm not referring to like a product business, but in my business, when I'm thinking of like offers to do or like programs, I have to like really actively not be looking at competitors, because I think it's easy to what's the word, like unbiased, no, unconsciously sort of like copy someone. And I really try to stay in my own lane. I don't listen to any other product podcasts. I try to not, I think I follow like one or two like other product coaches, but only because they've either been on my podcast or like I have a good relationship with them, but we like do different things. But yeah, it's really easy to like look at what someone's doing and like kind of copy them, but like you not even like on purpose. It's just like, oh, they're doing this thing, so I need the same images too. Or like, but I think your stuff is different though, because and I think too, like with your like the party angle, everything is super bright, colorful. Like the products that you choose in the boxes, you are clearly catering to like a specific type of person. So, and I can't think of anyone else who does what you do. So
yeah, and it's funny because as we've shifted more towards gift boxes, which is a more saturated market, I haven't wanted to lose the virtual party box side or the party box side, because I feel like with COVID, like everything has changed. There are more virtual companies. People are working more virtually. So I think there's always there's going to be an even bigger need to like, how do we connect people now that we're not all necessarily working together in person? And
Mhm.
so, and whether you're just doing like constant online trainings, or you're just always like, how do you bring your employees or your clients together now that a lot of people can expand and work in a more digital world, but they don't need to be directly in front of them or in their own same community. And so to me, I'm like, that is where I feel like the party boxes come in, is it still allows businesses to send them something for like I said, like a product launch or Microsoft bot boxes for the end of the fiscal year. They must have been in like finance, and it must have been like they were like, here, you guys need something to
Yeah.
celebrate the end of the fiscal year. So it's just kind of cool. I think that's one of the things that I love the most, is seeing why people purchase gift boxes. Because it's even for reasons that I don't even know that I would know about or think about. And it's definitely generated more ideas for us in terms of like who is our target audience. And so reading the messages, I think, is actually one of my favorite parts of
Aw.
getting the boxes. And so we've actually started on our Instagram posting some of the messages we get on the cards, because they're
Mhm.
just so like, I just love reading them. Like one was somebody was celebrating a 1 year sobriety.
Aw.
And so that was cool. Somebody was sending them a box for that. So it's just kind of cool
Oh
to
my
really see like,
God. It's so cute.
right. And another, like a dad sent his daughter a box for her first day at student teaching, just to say
Aw.
congratulations and I hope you have a good first day. And so those are the things that like I love reading.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cute. You're making me tear up. Oh, I'm such a crier now. Ever since I became a parent, I feel like I've told you this before. Everything makes me cry. Even if it's like not sad, it still like makes me tear up. So talk about like, okay, so you've been diving into the boxes and just sort of like trying to figure out like your own niche and things like that. Like, what do you feel like some of the biggest hurdles have kind of been in the last couple of years? So whether I don't know, just like the shit part of business. Like, what do you feel like? I'm just curious, like what you think the hardest, because I know and we talked about this yesterday, but like when people have businesses, and especially on podcasts and things like that, like people aren't always very like transparent about things. And it's always like, oh, my business, I grew my business to millions of dollars in my sleep. And I, like that kind of bullshit. Like the bro marketers on YouTube with like their rented Ferraris on Instagram, like posing in front of like a Ferrari, like, what's up? I can help you make 8 figures in your sleep with one email sequence. Just buy my book or buy this or whatever. So I'm very like, I make fun of these people all the time. I'm very transparent about my business, the struggles I've been through, the shit that I went through with my first business. And that's what drives me. A lot of my motivation to do what I do today is because I don't want people to have to feel like they have to go through that bullshit alone. There are mentors like me. There are like, even if it's on a mentor in a coaching program, like you can join a membership, you can join whatever, a free Facebook group, but like no need to do this alone. But anyway, I feel like I'm rambling here. What do you feel like some of the like crappy stuff that you've kind of had to go through with your business that like people often don't talk about, or like whatever you're willing to share?
Yeah. So, I mean, great question. I think there's so much of that stuff that's out there right now that makes it like, oh, it's so easy to make money and do this and do
Mhm.
that. And then you feel like a failure if you're not like, right, if you're not an overnight success, because a lot of the times,
Totally.
most of the stories we hear are like, oh, I went viral, or, it just like happened overnight, or
Yeah.
whatever it might be. I think the biggest hurdles have been for me, and I'm just going to speak even of lately. So talking about how like we started with balloons and then we evolved into these gift boxes. I feel like we've had a little bit of an identity crisis lately. So it's really been trying to really clarify like who is our business and what are we doing? Because I feel without that clarity, it's really tough to move forward in a certain direction. So
Mhm.
to me, that would be one hurdle. I think the other is like just coming from like entrepreneur to another entrepreneur
Mhm.
is you feel alone. It's like you're not alone, but you feel alone in all of the
Mhm.
things. I think that is probably the hardest part is you feel like you are wearing a million hats and you have to do the marketing and you're on social media and you need to send out emails and you need to do photo shoots and you got to pack boxes and you got to, so like all of these things, you have to pay taxes and you have to do bookkeeping. Like there's all these things, and we delegate out for some of those. Um, but I think that is probably the hard part is really focusing on what are the biggest things that will really move the needle. That's what I've been trying to focus on lately. What are the biggest things that I can do impact wise that will really move the needle? Um, Posting on social media daily, like to me is not it. It's not, that's not a marketing plan. So really trying to like figure out what that is, and who is our target demographic. Um, so a lot of my biggest hurdles, I think, have been in the marketing aspect of things. So who is our target demographic? How do I get in front of them? I think that with an e-commerce company, specifically for myself, I've really focused on like digital marketing and wanting to do that. But I actually have really realized that I have missed traditional forms of marketing, and just getting out actually in front of my target demographic. And how do you do that? And so that's actually one of the things that we've really been looking at is, okay, we have digital marketing going, but I am a people person. And I've realized that I want to be out and in front of people. And so how do I add that back into my life? Because that's what like fuels me. Um, so I think that, and that is one of the hardest things. You're like, I feel like I should be doing this, but you have to really realize like, how do you want to run your business instead of letting your business run you? And that's what I've really been trying to like figure out, like, where is that sweet balance? Um, like you have all this freedom and flexibility, but making sure that you're staying consistent. So let me go back. Here is one thing that I think was my biggest struggle, or something that I didn't really pay enough attention to, which was having like, we were marketing and we were doing things, but we didn't really have a good plan, but I was not consistent. So I have been consistent. One of my biggest goals is just to really like 10x our email list this year.
Mhm.
And how am I
Love
going to
that.
do that? And so that is my main focus for this year, is how do I get more emails in our email list, and then staying consistent with sending our emails. So we were never really super consistent with our emails, and we have been for the last 6 months. And I have seen an increase in orders just by doing that.
Mhm.
So that's been great. It's just adding more consistency, which is funny because I'm like, any podcast, any business coach, or anybody is like, everyone's like, right, be consistent. And I'm like the queen of like wanting to do a million different things, or not want. I hate routine. I've always said, I'm consistent at being inconsistent. That's the thing that I'm really good at. Because I
Funny.
like to have my day be different.
Yeah.
Um, so that's probably, if I were out of all that rambling, staying consistent and scheduling out your day has been the biggest hurdle. Because I feel like you can,
Mhm.
right? Because you like things come up and you feel like you have to answer those things right away.
Yep.
And so I've really been scheduling out, like every day has a theme. So Tuesdays are my marketing days, and I get my emails and social media and whatever else I need done on Tuesdays. I don't schedule any meetings. And then Wednesdays I do networking groups and meetings, and that gets me out in public and seeing people. And that's really more for myself. And so I've really kind of highlighted each day and what I want to accomplish that day. And it has honestly made a world of a difference, because now I feel productive. I'm actually getting things done and off my list. Um, and I feel like it's moving the needle. So
Hmm. I love that. That's such a good thing too. And I also think, as you were talking about like a hurdle with just scheduling your day, having flexibility sometimes isn't, it's not always easy for people,
mhm.
because we're used to the traditional like 9 to 5 where you show up in an office and you kind of have to just sit there all day, like whether you have work to do or not, like you're kind of glued to a desk for 8 hours a day, which, oh my gosh, I feel like it's so archaic now that I've had my own thing for, 7 years. I feel like I would have a hard time going back to like being chained to a desk all day. I feel like I don't know. But when you give someone like, here's a lot of free time, you figure out what to do. It's actually really, because with a traditional job, like people often give you, oh, well, here's your job description.
Yes.
Here are your tasks. You meet with your manager who's going to be like, Jamie, you didn't do this fucking thing. So go do that. Like people tell you what to do. People give you the guidelines. When it's your business, there is no roadmap. There is no plan. There is no nothing. It's just you figuring your shit out. And just because something works for Susan's company does not mean it's going to work for your company. Everyone's business is different, and everyone's needle movers are totally different. And I wanted to just say that because it's easy to be like, oh, well, Jamie, like, why wouldn't you just know what to do every day? Most people don't know what the hell to do every day because you have a
Yeah.
lot of time and you waste a lot of time and you don't batch things, not you, just in general.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. So the time management and structure of your day is such a thing that like everyone I know struggles with that, including myself. I've had to really actively work very hard last year to build boundaries, to structure my time. It's not easy at all. Like it's the opposite of easy.
Yeah, especially if you have a kid. I think that's what I've struggled with. So I have a
Oh,
son,
yes.
and that just adds a whole nother element. I mean, part of why I wanted to do this was to have the freedom and flexibility to go to his like sporting events and pick him up from school. But then it became a point where it was like, that was why I created the scheduling like I did in my themes of my day, because this last year I was not feeling productive. I was like, I would end the day going, what did I even get done today? Because I felt like I was running him around, and he plays hockey. And so I was like, okay, I got to get a handle on this and figure out like a better way. Like those times and those things are the way they are, but I can get better at scheduling out my time. So like the day before, I'm scheduling out my day and I'm doing time blocks. And then the other thing is just like not getting too hard on myself if I'm not like perfect. Like, oh, that time ran over. But at least has like kept me on track, and I feel productive. And so that was, yes. And it's funny because as you said that, like I went from a 9 to 5 into this, and I was just having this conversation with my husband because I was like, man, I felt like my time was more structured when I first started this business. And the longer I go not being in a structured environment, I have felt that get looser and looser. And so that was when this last 6 months, it was like, okay, we need to like hone this back in again and add a little bit more structure and then stay consistent with what you're doing. And I've seen huge improvements in just like the few months that I've made those small changes.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And you know, this is all like everyone's trying to figure out their own way. And like, and also, I also think too, just because like, again, I might tell you, oh, Jamie, you should structure your day like this. That doesn't mean that's going to work for you. I think it's really important, like that you listen to things like your energy levels. When are you most mentally energetic? Like you have to know your body, your mind, and when you like to do things. So like if you're really energetic in the morning, then don't start your day off checking your email. Like you should be doing creative things, marketing, versus like, you know, if you're a night person, well, okay, morning is great to check your email and things like that. So I think it's like there's so much that goes into planning a schedule or planning your day where you're like productive. So I also feel like, yeah, like don't people need to not be too hard on themselves because it is a like it's a work in progress, and it's easy for someone else to be like, oh, you should structure your day like this, but like in the end it has to work for you, you know, in your business. So
Yeah. I think
yeah.
that's the hardest part is like finding out like what does work for you. Right.
Yeah.
And like, and just be like flexible to, like I said, listening to yourself and trial and error and being patient and all of those things are kind of tough and giving yourself a little bit of like lenience.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this was amazing, Jamie. Thank you so much for like sharing your story and just sharing so many cool things about your business and your business journey. And I know there's a lot of people that are listening that are like, I want to do a box company, or like, oh my God, like I want to do balloons. And I think, you know, there's so many cool businesses, but yeah, thank you for sharing like all your story and just some of the things that you've been struggling with. I know that's not always like the fun stuff to talk about, but it is like the real stuff. And I definitely love, you know, I appreciate like people that are just like upfront and like, no, my business hasn't been fucking all roses and sunshine, you know? So yeah,
Yeah.
so let people know like where they can find you, where they can follow you, and then where they can buy your amazing boxes.
Yes. So you can find us at confettipartybox.com. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook at Confetti Party Box as well. And we also are doing a 15% off, right, for all of your listeners. So you can also get 15% off your first box with code. Am I doing this right? You're going to have to cut this.
Okay.
But we're also doing a 15% off code for all of your listeners. And that is Six Figure Pod. And that'll be linked below. I feel like that's something you could be doing.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah. We'll link it, we'll link it below. But thank you for giving a discount to the listeners. That's awesome. But yeah, thank you so much, Jamie. So nice to see you. And thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Hey.